those trucks got there under their own power, and the man was using them to make a living. This gentleman went to this sale. He told me, I got there at 10 a.m. on time and was the only one there. I asked when the auction would begin and was told, oh, when more people show up, I guess. He said, no way. It was scheduled for 10 a.m. It's 10 a.m. I'm here. We start now. Those are his rights. He bought them all for $150. I know what you're thinking. He overpaid. Okay? The only person holding you back is you. The United States Federal Marshal sales. Someone here, we were talking earlier about U.S. Marshal sales. There are legal notices posted. There are two basic types. Don't bother going to U.S. Marshal judgment sales. They are not necessarily good deals, because after all, the debtor or the owner had a judgment against him, and his personal property was not sufficient to raise the capital necessary to pay or to satisfy that judgment. So the creditor will usually bid on those items or on the entire estate. The second type, however, is a major drug seizure or criminal activity-related sale. Confiscated goods become available at auction when one of three things happens. Number one, a conviction, and by that I mean the process of appeals has passed. Number two, a plea bargain, and number three, the defendant skips bail. There are difficulties and problems finding out about these real opportunity auctions. The good news is the U.S. Marshal is required to post notice of these sales in one or two public places. Anybody know where those places are? Post office? Anybody else? That's correct. A post office or a bulletin board at the federal courthouse. In the courthouse or the federal building or in the post office. You've seen them. Sure you have. What you've seen is a little thumbtack with a little corner of a torn piece of paper. How long do you think that notice stays up there on the bulletin board for people to see? I can tell you it usually gets ripped off within minutes. By whom? By someone who wants to be the only one at the auction. Thank you. Exactly right. Okay? There is a simple way to solve the problem. I'm not just giving you a hard time. You can stand there for 24 hours a day waiting to see when the notice is put up, and you can be the one who rips it off. Most of us don't find 24-hour-a-day guard duty appealing at the post office in the middle of the night. The other place, however, that the notice is posted is on the windshield of the cars in the storage lot or on the merchandise itself or equipment. So that's simple enough. All we have to do is climb over the barbed wire fence, chloroform the Doberman, break into the warehouse, and bribe the U.S. Marshal or the guards and check out the items. I think you get the idea. The U.S. Marshal sales are among the hardest to find out about and the hardest to check out. But they can be the most lucrative as well, and just for those reasons. In our literature, you will learn how to find exactly where these unadvertised sales are, and I'll tell you later how come we know about them. But our simplified success strategy will show you how to find out about United States Marshal sales, bankruptcy sales, and other unnoticed, unadvertised, and lightly attended government auctions, and how to get the information about them and how to profit from them. How many people like to travel? What's the problem with travel? Right. The only problem with travel is that it costs money. And when you spend that money, that's after-tax dollars. Everybody knows what I mean about after-tax dollars. Your paycheck is your net, so it costs you roughly 130% of your earnings, but not when you're in the auction business. These DOD sales, DRMO, Army Defense, there are military bases all over the country and overseas. And at military installations overseas, there's one very, very interesting thing. You and I, if you are an American citizen, can attend any one of these auctions at military bases overseas. Foreign nationals cannot. There are many, many other government organizations besides DOD which hold these opportunity auctions. The SBA, Small Business Administration, confiscates whole businesses such as laundromats or pizza parlors and sells them at public auctions if their loans are not paid. Let's look at this business pro forma as an example of a laundromat. Here is a business which is appraised a $265,000 laundromat selling for 10 cents on the dollar with 10% down, $2,600 down. The laundromat is now netting $7,000 per month after all expenses, including full-time management. Think of the possibilities. It takes 4 months to pay off the $26,500 and put $7,000 per month cash in the HIP National Bank every month. That's $84,000 per year net. Forever? How many here could squeeze by on $84,000 a year for the rest of your life without working? Am I right? Okay. So now you're asking yourself, how many government auctions are there? I mean, after all, how many of these things can there really be? Friends, I've got news for you. In addition to the 4,000 DEA and marshals and court-ordered sales, there are hundreds of U.S. bankruptcy sales alone every week right here in this area. How is it possible? How come you never hear about them? These things are not advertised in the newspapers. On the contrary, where is a bankruptcy sale held? Does anybody know? Bankruptcy sales are held generally in the trustee's office. Who are bankruptcy trustees? Generally, they are attorneys or businessmen who have become court-appointed bankruptcy trustees, and they usually hold the trustee sales right in their own offices. Well, who attends bankruptcy sales? They're not advertised, as I said before. On the contrary, the court does not produce any kind of catalog, listing, or mailing list. The bankruptcy trustee calls or notifies just the people involved, the creditors and the debtor, in the bankruptcy case, and those creditors and their attorneys, or usually just the attorneys, are the ones who show up at these little informal back office sales. How does an outsider like you or me, who doesn't know about these items or isn't a creditor, find out that there is such a trustee sale? If only the attorneys or creditors show up, are they going to divide up those assets among themselves? Is there going to be competitive bidding? Is the stuff going to go for a lot of money? No way. A Chapter 7 trustee is not required to respond to general inquiries about sales. Notices are mailed only to the debtor and the creditors. Section 363, Rule 2002 of the Federal Bankruptcy Code requires the court-appointed trustee to do only one thing, and I'm sure you've seen it. It is an ad, a legal notice, in the newspaper. It says notice to debtors and creditors. Most people are neither the debtor nor the creditor, so they don't even know to get involved, much less how to get involved. 91-21843 SMW Chapter 7 Finales Rebecca and Pedro 6107 Southwest 35 Court Miramar, Florida 33023 SS1434419 W257971920 filed 05-2691 Attorney N.A. Need to know any more? Notices of the actual sale are not posted or printed in the newspaper, just the notice of the case. When you see an advertisement in the newspaper saying bankruptcy sale to the highest bidder, auction, and so forth, so on and so forth, usually what has happened, like in the case of Eastern Airlines, the creditors have gotten together and in an attempt to raise as much capital as possible to spread amongst themselves, they've hired a private auctioneer. That auctioneer is advertising the items to be sold at bankruptcy because he's going to get a commission. He sells the stuff after being taken from the bankrupt individual or the corporation. At this point, it's usually too late. For real bargains, you want to be involved with the trustee, not the private auctioneer. You can get personal property and real estate at a bankruptcy sale. All the debtors, luxury cars, and personal possessions are on the block. Everything from china and silverware to airplanes, tools, and everything imaginable at incredible prices. The really good deals are in the trustee's office. So if you can get personal property and real estate at these bankruptcy sales, what's the trick? The trick, obviously, is to find out about them. We have well-developed techniques to locate these sales, and our partners here will use those techniques. There's many, many other types of government sales. A partner of ours purchased a dozen Kentucky Highway Patrol cars which were sold at auction in various condition. He sold the cruisers to a wholesale auto dealer after a small amount of cleanup. You've got to take the insignia off the door and so on, okay? And he made big bucks. He reported to me it was pouring cats and dogs, and everyone except he and the auctioneer ran for cover. The next 12 cars he bought for $125 each. He resold 10 of them for $19,200, and the last 2 were scrapped. He sold them to a scrapyard, walking away with another $200 in his pocket. Total profit of $17,900. Not bad.